All right, so let's look at a couple examples of how to plot a graph, draw a graph in standard form, with the standard form of a line. Now remember, standard form, if you look back at your notes, could you write that down without looking at it? Give you a second. Standard form would be something like this. AX plus BY equals C. And what makes standard form, we look like this. We have no fractions, which we don't here, so we're good. And the x term is positive, which we also have here. So we have the x term, the y term, and we have the constant by itself. And the equation of our line is 2x minus 3y equals 6. Well, how can we get this onto a graph? Last time we looked at finding the intercepts. We had a very simple equation of just x plus y equals 6. Now we've thrown some coefficients into the mix. So let's see, let's try to find one of these intercepts. Do you remember how to find the x-intercept? Remember how to find the x-intercept? That would be where the graph hits the x-axis, right here. Now remember, the x-axis, what's the y value there? Value on the x-axis, y is always 0 on the x-axis. So, to find the x-intercept, let's do that over here. To do that, let's say let y equal 0. So we're going to let y equal 0, so let's rewrite the equation. Let's say 2x minus 3. Now instead of y, we're now going to have 0, right? So we'll change up the color so that's really clear. So 3 times 0 is 0. We have now 2x equals 6. And then if we divide by 2 on both sides, we will have x equals 3. And that point would be, since x was 3 and y was 0, right? Y was 0. That point will be 3, 0. So let's put that on the graph. Let's put it in red. So the x-intercept is 3. So there we go. X-intercept is 3. The x-axis value is 3. Remember, it's like a number line for x. We count over 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that was the x-intercept. Now let's look at the y-intercept. And what do you think we're going to do for y? Well, let's let x equal 0 for y. So if we plug this in, we'll now have 2 times, now we're putting x is now 0, minus 3y equals 6. Okay, I may have to move the solving of this, but 2 times 0 is 0, so we're left with negative 3y equals 6. If we divide by negative 3 on both sides, we end up with y equals negative 2. Y equals negative 2. So let's plot that one. Now, is that going to be up or down from the x-axis? Well, let's look at the origin right here. If we go up, we're positive. If we go down, we're negative, right? Y also is a number line, 1, 2, 3, or down 1, negative 2, negative 3. So we want to be on the y-axis at negative 2. So here we are, negative 2. There's our line right there. So now we just need to connect those 2 dots. Now, I would recommend using a ruler for this. My line right here isn't going to be very straight, but I'm going to do my best to draw it decently well. Let's see. All right, not bad. Now remember, arrows. We put arrows on the end because it goes on into infinity. Now, one thing you can do to make sure you did this right is just pick some point that your graph crosses and see if it works in the equation. So we already have our 2 intercepts, but let's pick this point. Let's pick this point down here. Now, what quadrant is this in? Take a second. Remember this is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 down here. So what point is that? Well, let's count from the origin. 1, 2, 3 in the x, so negative 3. We count it to the left. And then down, so we're going to be negative in the y. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 3, negative 4. And we can always check our solution by plugging that in. So let's say check out here. Let's check our solution. Let's plug those in. So instead of x, I'm going to have 2 times negative 3, or minus, rather, 2 times negative 3 minus 3 times negative 4, and that should equal 6. Well, let's see. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Minus 3 times negative 12, or negative 4, so that would be plus 12. Does that equal 6? Well, negative 6 plus 12 indeed is 6. So it checks out. You can always check your solution that way by picking a point. Okay, so there is one solve in standard form. Let's look at another situation you might run into. How about this? Y equals negative 2x plus 4. Y equals negative 2x plus 4. Now, is this in standard form? Let's remember, standard form, I'll write it down here. Standard form, if you have your notes, is ax plus by plus c, or it equals c. Let me write that a little more clearly. Ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, they're not fractions, and the x term is positive. So let's see. Are we in this form? No, we have y equals, right? And then we have that 4 there. The x term is not positive, so we need to do some algebraic manipulation here. So if you end up in this situation, we need to get x and y on the same side. We need the constant by itself on the other side. Thankfully, there's no fractions we have to deal with. We just need to move the x term. So let's add 2x to both sides. If we add 2x to both sides, our new equation will look like this. We'll have y equal, excuse me, let's put the x term first, right? So 2x plus y equals 4. 2x plus y equals 4. Okay, make sure you can follow what I did. All I did is I just added 2x to each side. I put the x term first so it looked like standard form. So now that we're in standard form, we can start getting values for the graph. So let's remember our x and y axes here. Let's find the x-intercept. Okay, so let's find the x-intercept right here. To do that, we will let y equal 0, and we'll plug in y for 0. So we'll have 2x plus 0, and that equals 4. So that will simplify to 2x equals 4, and x equals 2. So x equals 2, that's our point. The coordinate would be 2, 0. So we go to the origin, which is 0, 0, and x is a number line, and we're counting to the right by 2, 1, 2. So there's our point right there. All right, so that was the x-intercept. Now let's find the y-intercept. For the y-intercept, we will let x equal 0. So to let x equal 0, we would say 2 times x. The x is now 0, so 2 times 0 plus y equals, and what are we, 4. All right, so 2 times 0 is 0, so we have y equals 4. Look, that was pretty easy, wasn't it? And as a point, that would be 0 because we plugged in 0 for x, 0, 4. So now we want to find 0, 4 and put that on the graph. So we'll go to our origin, 0, and count up 1, 2, 3, 4 because it's the y-intercept, it's on the y-axis. So let's plot that. Let's see if we can draw this line. Now that we have enough information to draw the line, and here we go. There's our very badly drawn line. Again, I recommend using a ruler, and we can always check that by picking a point along the way and making sure we plug it in correctly. So there you go. That is our line. Arrows in each direction. It goes on into infinity. So you might see an example like that. All right, final two you might see. X equals negative 2, y equals 3. Look back at your notes for a second and tell me, these are special cases. What kind of lines are these right here? All right, you should have remembered that if anything is in the form of x equals, then this will be a vertical line. Vertical line. So let's plot that one. X equals negative 2. Well, here's our y-axis, here's our x-axis. Let's find the origin. If x is a number line, let's find negative 2. Well, if this is 0 and this is 1, counting to the right, then this would be negative 1, negative 1. 1, 2 this way, 0, negative 1. Negative 2 would be right here. So let's plot that point. Now, if it's just x equals negative 2, and that's a vertical line, then it's everything, every place where x is negative 2. So there we go. We just draw our line right on the line x equals negative 2. It's a vertical line. And I think you're probably pretty keen on where we're going with this. If x equals something is a vertical line, what is y equals a constant? Well, that is going to be a horizontal line. And the horizontal line y equals 3, we would go to the origin. We'd count up 1, 2, 3 to where y is 3, right? We can count up. And it will be a horizontal line right through the y-intercept of y equals 3. So there you go. There's a horizontal line and a vertical line, both special cases that you might run into. All right, that is it for graphing. Some questions for you. We'd like to see tomorrow. Have these written down. I want you to list the steps. Come up with directions for yourself. List the steps for graphing a line in standard form. We saw a couple different examples right there, so should be all set. And then also, I want you to explain, how do you graph a horizontal and vertical line? How do you tell them apart? How can you remember which one is horizontal, which one's vertical? Finally, go outside. You've had enough studying today. You guys have done great. You've been in front of a screen long enough. So no Angry Birds, but go have a great time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.